lost mine in the sand. Where will you stand?
It looks like Mr. Hanok is back in his natural habitat. And Moda'ine. Hey, it was good
Yeah.
to see you up on the Tara Bite, even though you had a little jet lag probably. How you doing?
Um, well, I gotta tell you, and this is not to dissuade anyone from flying anywhere in the world, but the jet lag on this particular trip is worse than anything I'd experienced before. Not to go into any details, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what I did wrong, and but in any case, um, nothing that a couple of packets of hydrate and cold water in copious amounts couldn't help. But anyway,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
Sunday I was able to go back on the Harabayit on the Temple Mount. That was wonderful. That was about an hour after Rabbi Leo D put on tefillin on the Temple Mount.
Wow.
Of course, he was subsequently arrested. Um, if the name sounds familiar, his wife and two daughters were killed in a terrorist attack um, back in 2023. He's Baruch Hashem, thank God, getting remarried this past Sunday night. So that morning he was up on the Temple Mount and put on the head part of the tefillin. Um, there's a difference between publicity stunts and ongoing things that change facts on the ground. But we can save that for another day. Let's start with some good news.
So I guess that he did
Yeah.
get let out. He was arrested, but he was out in time for his wedding.
Yeah, they just gave him a suspension from being able to ascend the Temple Mount. I think it's for a week. It could be
Oh,
extended more.
oh, okay. And
Not
by the
not
by
that
the way,
big deal.
regarding the jet lag for those that are going on the Connect Israel tour in the end of October, I don't give you time for jet lag when you get there,
No,
so don't be concerned about that. You
no,
can save that all for on the way when you get back home. Okay.
no, absolutely
All
true.
right. What's
Absolutely true.
going on over there?
So the really good news is, as of today, Delta has resumed daily flights to Israel. So that's huge. Coming up in the next few weeks, we have Air Canada and KLM. So that's fabulous. We now have a whole stable of foreign airlines that keep that number just keeps adding. That has tremendous potential for the future. Needless to say, it causes a flutter in the heart of all of us tour guides that maybe one day we'll be able to work again. So that's exciting, but it also ties in with um, an impression that I got while traveling around America. There are still people, for whatever reason, no matter how many times we beg them, Mike, who do not read the Israeli news. So they're left with an impression given to them from CNN or Fox or God only knows what. Someone on the internet who is posting a video, and they still think that Israel is a dangerous place, and it's not at all. I mean, I have to tell you, I did not feel that way when I landed at LaGuardia Airport in New York City.
Yeah.
That is a dangerous place. That is a very scary place for Jews, in particular. Although with the homeless and everything, I mean, it's really it's gotten to be a terrible, terrible mess. Um, but I would strongly encourage people to, hopefully people have been saving. I have no idea, by the way, why this new MacBook
I don't
does that.
either.
I have no idea why it's zooming, why it's not zooming. In any case, um, so I really hope that people are planning to come to Israel, and I really hope that people, when people write comments like, someday I too will be able to stand. I mean, it reminds me of singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It's not, either you're doing something to get yourself to Israel, or might as well just give up on it because you're not doing anything. Doing nothing will get you nowhere.
Well, this thing about is Israel safe? I get with that all the time. You know, it just there's no way to combat it. There's no amount of information anywhere. People just have it in their mind that Israel is some kind of a third world country. Well, third world countries normally do not have people who are blind now seeing because of the medical technology. Third world countries do not have spinal cord transplants. Third world countries do not have brain tumors removed without cutting the skull. But that's all happening in Israel.
Yeah.
So, you know, for a bunch of Bedouin shepherds that just barely know how to move sheep around, you guys are doing pretty good.
Yeah. It's, and it continues to. Now, um, of interest were the most recent comments that President Trump made, that Israel is losing support in Congress, and that, the continuation, the ongoing war, is hurting us in terms of, public opinion, because the jihadis and their supporters have done such a fabulous job
Oh,
of
yeah.
convincing the world that there is starvation. And again, I saw a statistic just this morning that 92% of the buildings in Gaza have been bombed. Not totally destroyed, but bombed. So, statistically speaking, wouldn't you expect that 92% of the population of Gaza had been killed?
It sounds reasonable.
Or a pretty high percentage? And in reality, the population in Gaza remains larger today than it did on October 7th, 2023.
Hmm.
But, and again, that silly expression, don't confuse the issue with facts, doesn't say it's strong enough. Facts don't matter.
Yeah.
Um, the concert, who is it? Coldplay. Call up two people on stage. Turns out they're Israeli, and he said something about, well, you know, it's nice that we could like consider each other human beings. I mean, it's like we Jews have become this vile parasite in the eyes of the world. And in the future, this is not going to go away. And when I encouraged people in congregations that I spoke to, for instance, have a salute to Israel event,
Yeah.
bring in other congregations, have things in your communities. I don't know if they're realizing how essential that is. And it concerns me.
It does me too. Now I can't find the news article here. It says that today a large number of reservists are being called up.
Yep.
So didn't Netanyahu didn't he announce this a couple 3 weeks ago that there was going to be something big, and so it's taken this long to get that to happen?
There's no logical reason. Now, supposedly, plans had been drawn up for this latest phase, if you will, in Gaza City. Now, the guys that run the IDF know how many people it will take. They understand the battle plan. I mean, they've created it. So, what's holding us back? And again, in my opinion, this should have been done a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand the push-pull and the politics involved. I mean, I try to explain to people why the Haredi population, why the ultra-Orthodox population has not been drafted to any significant and it's all tied in with Netanyahu and his
Yeah,
coalition government.
with politics.
But
Yeah.
people won't hear that. In fact, as I said, I think last week, the one thing that I say that people just ignore is anything that's an implied criticism of Netanyahu. It's astounding to me.
We see the same thing on in the United States with Trump. I'm sure you probably saw some of that too. You know, this whole thing with PR and you guys being the parasite.
Yeah.
It didn't just happen. It's been for a
No.
while. The other thing that I found really fascinating is that Belgium has now come out saying they will support the Palestinian state.
Right.
I've been in Belgium 5 times speaking, and when I first went over there, I think it was 2005. You go down in Antwerpen, up north, and this was one of the largest Jewish populations outside of New York, I guess, and Israel. The diamond factory, the diamond merchants there. You walk down this street in Antwerp, and there had to be 100 diamond shops. It was incredible. And then a couple of years later, they're leaving. And now, in just, in a 20-year time span, now Belgium, as well as much of Europe, is turning totally Muslim.
Right.
A mutual friend, Dov Kempinski, shared a video that I put up also of a Arab, I won't say Palestinian, an Arab activist that was pointing to the Israel embassy in London and saying this is going to be the Palestinian embassy. A few years ago, I'd have said that guy's crazy. Right now,
Right.
I can see that.
Well, it's interesting. Although the Diamond District in Antwerp uh, had a very large concentration of Orthodox Jews, ultra-Orthodox Jews. Belgium never had a large Jewish community.
Well,
They never,
in that area, it was I misspoke that one, but in that
no,
area,
no.
there was a large,
But
Jewish
where
group.
there
Yeah.
are large Jewish communities, and I tell people, they say, I don't understand why Jews don't go on Aliyah.
Yeah.
That's another familiar refrain I get from congregation to congregation across America.
Well,
And
see,
I try to explain that, see, they're involved in congregations of which Israel obviously is a big part of it. I
mhm.
mean, if you're a Messianic congregation, you're supposed to be talking about the Torah. You're supposed to be talking about Israel. This is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, when I'm explaining that the majority of Jewish Americans are unaffiliated and are not involved in any kind of congregation and never been to Israel, they're like, I don't know if people don't believe me. I don't know. Maybe they don't believe me.
And America is, of course, a different. You have to kind of separate everything that's happening here in America. But what we do see is a track record, and this goes to Antwerp. This goes to Johannesburg. I was in Johannesburg back in 2002, 2001, I believe it was. It was before 9/11. And I was there in downtown Johannesburg and was told this was a thriving Jewish community. And they said all of a sudden they all left. Well, guess who moves in? Esau. When
Yeah.
when Jacob leaves, Esau moves in. And this has happened in Johannesburg. This has happened in Antwerp. This has happened in Michigan. This is happening in New York, I guess. There's a bit of
Okay.
a clash there, but it's going on right around all over the world.
But Johannesburg and the South African Jewish community is a perfect example. On a per capita basis, they always led the world in percentage of Aliyah.
Mm.
They were a community that was focused on that. Now, their system, which truly was apartheid, I mean, now the term
Oh,
is just thrown around to
totally.
mean anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So they had the ability to immigrate more freely. And you now have South African Jews living in Atlanta and Australia. I don't know if they have a thing for A names, but that's where, but the percentage of Aliyah, we Nefesh B'Nefesh, the organization on behalf of the Israeli government that facilitates Aliyah from North America, just recently had their first flight since 2023.
Wow.
And it was 225 Olim immigrants. Again, I remind people next week, actually the date of my daughter Ayala's wedding, Bezrat Hashem, will be exactly 16 years since I had the zchut, the merit of becoming an Israeli. 16 years.
And she just happened to pick that date just to honor you, I guess.
It actually has nothing to do with it, that was the funniest thing. It had to do with schedules and commitments with Yossi. Anyway, make a long story short, 16 years. And I remind people that was considered a peak year for Aliyah. 3,500 Olim came from the United States and Canada that year.
Wow.
3,500. Now, the statistics will tell you within 3 to 5 years, 50% have left and gone back to the old country.
Yeah.
It's expensive here. Now, I'll give you another example. I had the opportunity to go with a young couple, get into a conversation. They're looking to buy a home in Teaneck, New Jersey. And prices are ranging around, in what they were looking at, $1.2 million. Okay, which is a lot more expensive, I know, than the area around Franklin, North Carolina, and places where other friends of mine live. A little bit. Yeah. But here's what I want to draw a correlation to. For $1.2 million, I would have trouble getting a 3-bedroom apartment here in Modi'in.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's no land. That's an apartment in a building where other people are living. Meaning, so if you've got someone who's smoking a pipe or a cigar on the mirpeset on the terrace next to yours, that's just the way it is. If someone is dropping garbage on the stairs going downstairs, that's the way it is. So economically, I may be among the first Jews whose standard of living coming from the United States ever improved by moving to Israel. And that was just because I was in a poor socioeconomic position. But you've got to be ideologically focused.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to be crazed by Zionism. You've got to be crazed by your Jewish commitment for Jews to get up and move to Israel. That minting process of creating crazy Jews seems to have slowed tremendously since I was a teenager.
We need some more minting of that, I guess. So, yeah,
Sure
the
enough.
economy has just, has always astounded me. I remember going over there in May of '98, and we went to the Jerusalem Mall one day. And I had this thing. I wanted to get some American food. Okay, this is my first trip to Israel. I'm tired of falafels and stuff. Went to Burger King. This is 1998. Went to Burger King and got a Whopper combo meal, and I remember it being $8.50. And I thought, this is absolutely outrageous. And now it's $12 here, but or 11. But that was my wake up moment to the economy in Israel. And it has taken me a lot of years to try to understand the Knesset. But the Knesset is easier to understand than how anyone in Israel is able to survive financially.
Well, it's interesting. Usually transportation and basic food items goes up once a year, usually in January. Because of the demands of the war, for instance, things have gone up more than once. So the light rail. Oh, by the way, I don't know if anyone has been following the news, but for close to 3 months, there's been no light rail in Jerusalem
Yeah.
because of the, laying down the tracks for the second line of what will eventually be four lines. Well, I was on it. Fortunately, it started running again on Sunday. I could not have walked it. Again, I had dehydration and I was out of it. But I noticed that it's 8 shekels for a ride.
Oh,
I mean, not that long ago, Mike, I got on with you and it was 590. So this is 8 shekels. Now, because of my age, I no longer pay for public transportation. So I could take a train anywhere in the country, a bus, a light rail. I don't have to pay for it. But everyone else does. Well, it's not just me. It's,
yeah.
it's
Where
other folks our age.
where do
But
I sign up for that age deferment for my trip?
that's part of the adoption papers that I've been working on all these years for
Oh,
you.
okay. Okay.
Um, but what I wanted to mention is I was dying for a cold drink. I'm in the Rova, I'm in the Jewish Quarter, and I've already drank so much water. And I happen to see they had Snapple iced tea.
Uh-huh.
Now, this is my temptation in America. Now, even in New York, at an expensive supermarket, grocery store, it was 162, $1.62. So here it was like 17 and a half shekels. So I quickly check, that's $5.35. That's like airport prices. When you're in the airport and you go and you want to get a cold drink and a snack, and all of a sudden it costs you $14.
Yeah, I know.
Uh, yeah.
Wow.
So listen, again, it's when you're here as a tourist, when you're visiting, you don't feel those kind of pressures because again, compared to certain things in America, and again, it's not like you're buying Snapple iced tea, and things like kanafe,
Yeah,
which is the dessert that everyone needs to buy for you, Mike,
it's true.
um, and falafel and hummus and all those things are relatively inexpensive.
Well, and the thing is, when you go over on a tour, we get people to exchange their American funds into shekels.
Yeah.
And there's this kind of a feeling that's like monopoly money. It's not real money that I'm actually spending there. So that's why we have people, change it over so you really don't know how much you've spent while you're there.
Well, it's funny because our money is colored
Yeah.
and Americans are used to green and white dollars. Now here's a shock for Americans who've never traveled. The world uses colored money.
Hmm.
The euro, the British pound, the Canadian dollar, the Australian dollar, the Japanese yen, these are all colors. So every once in a while, when I was guiding for Tourist Israel, people would say to me, why is your money, why can't they just do green and white? And
Hmm.
it's funny, but when people think of it, just from an American perspective, like people said to me, why on earth do you guys use 220 voltage? Why can't you be 110? Why can't I bring my hair dryer and plug it into a wall? Well,
But you
it's the
can.
world. Yeah,
Yeah. You can, and if a person decides not to change over the little switch there, I love to see that. It's a blast to watch that thing go. Curling irons are really great when it comes to plugging that thing into 220. I remember going to New Zealand the first time, and their money it's different colors, yes, but it's also plastic. It doesn't fold. You can take an iron to it and it will not fold. It just comes back to its natural shape.
that's
It's the
great.
craziest thing. Yeah. But,
That's great.
hey, America, let's face this, look, America is the center of the world. And if you guys would all just line up and be like us, the world would be so much. No, it'd be about the same.
Well, America, I've been using this term, is in the midst of fighting for its very soul.
Yeah, it's true.
And many people seemingly are unaware of it. Um,
Totally unaware.
and that's why, I was feeling like, the Israeli Paul Revere, you know, running around telling people, get organized, get more
Yeah,
involved,
yeah.
plan to come to Israel. And I'm getting a lot of nods. I don't know if it's translating into action. It's impossible for me to tell at this point.
It's not there yet, but I think it might be on the horizon. So, well, hey, get hydrated, get over your jet lag, and get everything together. So we need you fresh for
Ready?
October. So
Sure enough. Listen, for those who will be coming with us on Connect to Israel 2025, we're looking forward to seeing you all here. I'm sorry that many of you who had considered it or are continuing to wait. Hope there'll be room for you next year.
yeah, that would be wonderful to run out of room. Yeah, that'd be good.
Oh, I'm
So,
planning on it.
all right, until next week, man.
See you, man.